Yeah.
How did you get here today? Tell us about you.
Well, I got here today because you guys are all so connected to everybody, and I've heard about you, and I know a lot of people involved, and I love being involved with organizations, different organizations, but especially those that are like helping people that are younger in their careers. I spent 20 years in corporate retail here in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm very proud that I started off as an intern and literally worked my way up step by step, some twists and turns along the way, and was most recently head of marketing there. And decided to take some time out. Kind of, I don't want to say midlife because I think I'm younger than I am, but like just wanted to
You look very young.
take a pause moment and figure out like what was next for me. And I am really close to what's next, so I'm really excited.
Yeah. What do you have any major plans for what's next?
I wanted to make sure that I found something that I could continue to learn from. I think that sometimes when you quote unquote like get to a leadership position, it's like that you have it all figured out and you know everything. And I kind of think that's boring. Like I want to continue to, of course, contribute and share what I can, but also make sure I'm still getting something from it. So what's a new experience, a new scope, a new industry, like something where I like selfishly am getting something out of this to continue to expand my knowledge. So I was able to find something that that continues to do that.
Are you ready to talk about it, or do you want to save that for a different day?
I'm not ready to talk about it yet.
Save it for a different
We'll
day.
save it for a different day.
Love it. So tell me, it was one of the most curious things I have for folks that have like started at the bottom, now we hear sort of deal. Like how do you, so when you're in the moment, I think a lot of people like, maybe that seems like an accident or like that was a mistake, but then like in retrospect, you can kind of like piece these puzzle pieces together and make sense of it and maybe point to like behavior or advice to be able to kind of get there. Is there anything that you can like say about like all the winds and turns like leading to a really cool position like that?
I would first say, like, I feel like there are no mistakes. Like, even when something like in the moment feels like bad or not what you want, you are still learning from that. You're still growing. And I just feel like anyone who thinks they can have it all planned out, like it doesn't ever go according to plan, and you have to be okay with that. So like, I think you can learn from good and bad experiences, or not getting the promotion as much as when you did get the promotion. The other thing that I think helped make me successful along the way, I was just like always super curious, and I tried to say yes more than no. And I think that's a fine line. Mm-hmm. I can't say that's what I do now, but in the beginning, I was just always curious, something that felt maybe like I didn't know what it was or I didn't know how to do it. I still said yes and was like, I will figure this out, because I just wanted exposure to more people, different projects, because you just never know where things go. So I think that would be my biggest thing. But I think it's like a fine line. And then at some point in my career, like I had to pause and not say yes as much as I said no. But in the beginning, I think that really helped me.
At what point does somebody go from, and I completely agree, like when you open a new business, for instance, like you should be saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
And then at some point it like flips and you're like, wait, I need to start pivoting and saying no so I can focus on these yes opportunities.
Yeah.
How do you, like if you're in that right now, what advice do you have for people like that?
Yeah,
like,
I feel like it's a really hard, because I don't think it's like, when you become a director or manager or leading a team, like I don't think it's some certain landmark. I think you have to always just listen to yourself and like, where are you getting your energy from? What's depleting you? And where are you adding the most value? So for me, like it was when professionally, like I said yes when my whole life was my professional career. As I got older and I had kids and a family and I needed to balance more things on my plate, and I found that like I had to say no a little bit more often. There's this like great interview with Johnny Ives, who used to work at Apple with Steve Jobs, and he talks about how I talk about them like I know them, but like I literally tell everyone about this, and he was like, say no to things that are like such good ideas that you have so much passion about, because you have to stay focused on the things that matter. And I think sometimes a lot of people say yes or no to avoid sometimes something. And I think if you stay really maniacally focused, you know what your strategy is, you know what you want to do. Don't just say no to stuff that you don't want to do. Say no to stuff that you really want to do, because you are so focused on achieving whatever goal it is that you have.
Totally. What were some of the biggest projects that you had that you knew that you needed to focus on? Like, what were those like kind of core things? And then what were some of the distractions that you saw at like big moments in your career?
I think one of the one of the last projects I worked on before I left my company is I was in charge of the annual fashion show, and it was bringing it back. And there used to be a playbook, and there was no playbook, and it was a big deal. And I had to say no to almost everything that wasn't about that, because if that worked, everything else would fall into place.
Right.
So again, that was another point where I had to rework some things in my life. Like I had to be traveling more. I had to be away from my family more. I had to trust my team to carry on the day-to-day work, and they had it. They're amazing, because it's also amazing when you let people rise to the occasion and be like, hey, I can't do what I normally do anymore. I'm focused on this. You do this. It is amazing what people do when you just let them run with it.
Totally.
And it worked beautifully.
How do you transition from being a tactical hands-on intern, or I'm guessing like level 1 marketing person, to then being the person that's taking on all the tasks and then delegating the tasks?
Yeah.
Is there like a mindset shift that you had to take on through that process? How did you go about it?
Yeah, it's really hard, because what in the beginning part of your career, what really I think helps you rise is just being that like get it done person and just accomplishing tasks and executing. And so it does, when you start to have a team and you realize that they are not going to grow and thrive and learn unless they're doing things. Yes, they can learn by watching you, but also like letting them. So I think when I started to have people that were reporting to me, that I had to make sure that they were getting the experiences that I did, and I was thrown into stuff. And so making sure I passed that along, and really let them excel.
What do you think the most important qualities of a high-level leader are? It can be specific to marketing or not, just like in general.
I have found that always like keeping it real and realizing that like I wasn't always here and I may not always be here, and just being someone. And I think that relatability I have found in my career, my team liked that. They appreciated it, and they wanted to do a better job because they felt like they knew me, that they felt like they could connect with me, and that they never wanted to let me down. But it's also a fine balance of like, I always said like, I'm super casual, I'm relatable, but I expect everyone to know their shit and get it done. So I still have really high standards. I was like, I don't think you have to be a jerk to be able to get it done.
Totally. Like a sense of authenticity
about
you. Yeah, I love it. What would you tell yourself 20 years ago today?
Oh my God. Like, you just like buckle up, wild ride, and you can never guess where this is going to go. That's what is like young in your career. Like I could never have put on like a career dream board or like in my wildest dreams of doing some of the things that I got to do.
What was your like, when you were 20 years ago today, what did you think you were going to do?
I mean, I really liked marketing and PR, and I was like, oh man, if one day I could just be like a director, and like leading a whole department or a whole team, or the head person for an organization in marketing, like my brain didn't even let me go there. And that's why it was like, I just feel like you just never know, and don't let what you think you can do or not do get in your way.
Before you got promoted to, was it chief marketing officer?
It was executive vice president.
Okay. Before that happened, was there like a certain moment where it was like, oh, like I did it, or like a pivotal like thing where like, whoa, like we need her like in this position? Like, how did you handle that? Or how did that happen?
I had been at the company for a really long time, and I think that I think this happens at a lot of organizations. You always feel like you need to probably like look from the outside and other companies and people with all this other experience. So I was there for a really long time. I kept rising in my career, and they kept bringing other people within the marketing organization from the outside because they had really good consulting companies on their resume or other really cool brands. And it was always this wow factor. But I think that they took for granted that loyalty and history and that fine balance of knowing the organization, but also bringing newness. Mm-hmm. It can be within your own doors. So I think it was like just the idea that you don't always have to look on the outside to get newness and a new perspective and different results.
Totally. So let's talk a couple of questions about mentorship. Yeah. So mentors along the way. Was
Yeah.
there anyone that instilled really important advice into you that you've like held on to throughout your career?
Yeah. The woman that she wasn't like really my first direct boss. Like she was like kind of like an unofficial boss, but I worked really closely with her. She gave me every opportunity, and she knew I didn't know everything. She knew I was learning and growing, and she was just always there to support me officially and unofficially, whether it was like needing to grab a glass of wine after a hard day, or just being like, I know you'll figure this out. And 20 years later, we don't work together. We haven't worked together for years. 20 years later, we still do quarterly dinners and catch up and are still giving each other like advice and guidance, and in a, on a more unofficial capacity, I would say like the personal board of mentor thing.
Sure.
Outside of the company now.
I love it.
Yeah.
Question about our generation, Gen Z, millennials, folks that are like trying to do what you do. We need feedback. We need like hard feedback in areas to improve on.
Yeah.
So can you give us like some criticisms? Can you tell us what we can be doing better to improve?
I think that for the younger generation, I worry about people who have grown up with smartphones and are so used to living in a digital world. One of my biggest struggles was after COVID and offices started opening back up, the resistance from the younger people on my team at the time to come back into an office setting. And like, hey, don't get me wrong. Like, I love that, like, I could like be putting my kids in the car and then be in a meeting 5 minutes later. Super convenient. But they just did not want to be with people in person again. And I think that I was lucky enough that like my butt had to be in that seat like 10 hours a day, 5 days a week when I was starting out. And I learned so much from being around other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like out in the real world, like don't forget to get out of your phone. This is why I love this opportunity so much, is also I think helping create rooms, because it is really hard to find the room or the occasion to meet people and network. So I appreciate that you're helping with that, but like don't stay behind your phone or your computer or in your apartment. Like get out and meet someone. And it doesn't have to be profound, It's just like one question, one hi, and you just never know.
Great. So to that point, this is my last question. Do you have any advice for when people are in that room and they're networking and they're doing this or doing that, like how they should approach talking to someone like you?
I think authenticity is like never fails no matter what level you're at. And I also think just like, not necessarily doing research about like who's in the room. I mean, you could, but like, are you up to date on what's going on? Like, would you be able to ask a smart question that's about culture, business? If you did know something about that person because you thought that they might be there, and you could ask them a question. Like, so I always think like kind of doing your due diligence a little bit. If you don't know what's in the room, just be up on like what's going on in the world. So you can be connected and know what's going on and learn something.
Totally. I love it.
Yeah.
Sarah, am I going to see you next Thursday?
You know it.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Thank you
Can't
so much
wait.
for your
Thanks.
time.
Thank you.